Hey everyone. Okay, so to start off, Chapter 74 immediately sets up that, yeah, it is the bounty on Taro's head that made him ineligible to attend the JCC as a student. But that's soon followed up by Nagamo inserting himself into the conversation like usual, which, side note, but I swear, every time this motherfucker makes an entrance, I yell at the phone saying, "Where the fuck did you come from?" Like that is legitimately all the entirety of my response to any time we used to see pretty much Nagamo like randomly show up. But regardless, he does offer a proposal that if you can't infiltrate the JCC as a student, then why not as a teacher, by pitching a teaching internship to basically Taro. Now, admittedly, this is a chapter where I prematurely got my hopes a little high, but we're quickly dashed. Is when Nagamo turned to Aoi, I did kind of get excited at the prospect of her infiltrating the JCC in Taro's place, but because if I did have one consistent criticism with the series, it's that Aoi herself has had a very limited function dynamic within the series, with the only role she's ever kind of needed to play is as Taro's wife, the person who grounds him in the life he has now versus the one he had, and the life he's fighting to protect, which is fine. But as the series continues to go on, I've started to realize it has taken a lot of the urgency away from her, or from her, and just how we've not really gotten much of a character arc, or even just much of a character, just much involvement with her in general in the story. And so seeing this, so the prospect and idea of just seeing her take that more active role, it was a nice switch up. I was rooting for. But where my hopes were dashed, however, when we do learn the twist that the one who's attending the JCC as a teacher isn't Aoi, it's Taro using her likeness to infiltrate the school. Now, again, I did quick again, I was disappointed by this, but I did quickly rebound to the idea that it does make sense to take this route, as it would be unrealistic for someone like Aoi who's untrained to infiltrate as an assassin school. But again, it is just kind of one of those weird things where, as much as it makes sense, it does feel like it highlights the problems with Aoi's character, honestly, a bit, and just feels like a missed opportunity to not include her in some fashion in this operation, even if it's not even if it's just like a handler or someone being the person in the chair, so to speak, in order to give Taro advice. Maybe, I don't know. Like, it again, it's again, I need to make clear, it is one of those things where it makes sense for Taro to be just like disguise himself as his wife to infiltrate the JCC. But it's like, yeah, it did get me a little bit hyped in order to see Allie play a larger role in the story for a bit. Uh, in saying that, there is a larger elephant in the room to address, though, and it comes with the ending of Chapter 75, as that chapter ends with a reunion between Natsuki Seba and Shin. And this was a reunion that was a long time coming. From the moment we were introduced to Mafuyu, we knew Natsuki probably wasn't going to be too far behind in getting reintroduced. Although, given current circumstances, it does start to beg the question of just what Natsuki's doing here. If he's aware of his brother's been kidnapped, or if him being here is just part of a job he took and was. It's gonna be it's gonna be interesting, or if everything is just all pure coincidence. Right now, I'm betting on it being close to the middle scenario, where Natsuki being here is part of a job he took, but we'll have to wait and see. Um, and if that is the case, then it's going to be interesting to see the steps that lead to Natsuki and Mafuyu's reunion. But for now, it'll be interesting to see how Shin and Natsuki work off each other, with the whole now permission that this reunion has happened. Like, it's been a while since the last time we saw these two, they were basically at each other's throats. So it'll be interesting to see them having a little bit more of a conversational relationship, you could say. Now, And so, yeah, now, all this is great, so where's the elephant in the room? The elephant in the room with this chapter is that this is basically the chapter that the last episode of the anime's second core will be ending on. And even before I got around to reading this chapter, I stumbled upon a review about the last chapter, and I even only reading the spoiler-free section of the article, the, they mentioned that there was one part that kind of stuck out to me, which is that the reviewer said something along the lines of how the finale to the anime does feel more like an intermission or a stopgap rather than a finale. And after reading this chapter, if this is the point as to where the anime is ending, I tend to kind of agree. If this is the chapter that Core 2 is ending on, then this does feel like a very odd place to cap off, especially since we haven't heard anything definitive about Season 2 yet. Getting back to the beginning of the chapter, though, I do want to talk about that whole theory crafting session is everyone is having about how no one has ever really seen the database itself. There's really only been attempts to find it and rumors, but no one really knows what the database is or what it looks like or has even seen it. The only one who likely do know are the higher echelon of the JCC's teaching staff. And this whole theory crafting session where the Sakamoto crew are bouncing their different ideas off each other already has me kind of thinking the database is actually a person, isn't it? Like this chapter feels like it's trying to misdirect me into believing the database is like a physical information hub with like, computers and whatnot. But because this is a series that seems to thrive on subterfuge by virtue of being a world of assassins, yeah, I'm not going to be gaslit this time. Besides which, it would kind of make the most sense of it being a person, as a physical database would just be way too easy to find. But having it be the code name of a person makes it easier to hide information from people and organizations who would want to get their hands on that information, such as Uzuki and his group. But if my own theory is correct, the only question is, if this does turn out to be the case, is Uzuki himself aware of that possibility, or does he also believe the database to be more of a hub? Because if my own theory is right, then we better hope Uzuki believes in the latter and not the former. Otherwise, that's big trouble for us. Because Uzuki's already got a step ahead then. With that said, I do like how we got to see Taro using his skills to teach, and already seeing little bits and pieces of what his life could have been like for him had he not maybe outright retired. So it's a nice look into a life that could have been, and I imagine we are going to see like more moments like that as this arc goes on, and just seeing kind of Taro just in an environment where he's not only comfortable with, but just seeing a life that maybe could have been with him as a teacher. And yeah, it was hilarious to see Taro's reaction to his high score at the shooting range getting bested by Heisuke. Like, he's gonna throttle the guy's neck for that one. And again, it's one of those moments that is nice to see that he's not above getting a little petty pride from time to time. It's one of those moments that just again pulls back the layers more to show the man underneath the assassin. Of course, the biggest thing I'm looking forward to with this whole infiltration now is just what his interactions with Akira are going to look like, because with Taro kind of posing as his wife as a teacher, Akira doesn't know it's him. That does promise some very interesting moments between the two characters now, especially since Akira's whole reason for being here is to find Rion, who, as we've established, is very much dead. So, however much Taro's has been avoiding the subject during the up to this point, I feel like this is the arc where he's gonna have to confront it here. Like, there's gonna be no chance of him avoiding the subject anymore. He has to confront his past in some way or another. And again, with Akira there, it's just all going to blow up in his face in some way or another. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much all I got for this review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe for me on Blue Sky, and with Crunchyroll, red button, and just share it around, guys. Dark Knight of the Night signing off. Later, everyone. Fuck it,